Coach, a very challenging start to the season with all the games scheduled between CONCACAF and Major League Soccer, but yet again, a result today following a tough game. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think that's a key part of the puzzle here. This is new territory for us. Off the back of some considerable travel on Friday, 1 day to turn around, 4 or 5 key players that are missing out of the group. I'm very, very proud of the way that the guys worked. The first half was very, very difficult, and New York for sure were the better team. But as the second half unfolded, I felt as though there were certainly opportunities and more confidence in the group, maybe to take the game to New York, that we certainly didn't see in that first half. So I can't get inside their heads or their bodies, but I'm sure that some of the events of Wednesday and having to turn around so quickly played its part in the way that the game unfolded for us today.
Thank you, Coach. We're going to keep you up with entry.
Yeah, Gary, how much do you put the lack of opportunities there until, I guess, the last 10, 15 minutes? How much do you put on not having Hani and what he means to the attack? And is that still the same as it's been for a number of years now?
Well, I think you've only got to look around Gentry. No Sam, no Hani, 2 DPs that are going to, make a difference in anyone's team. Annabelle Godoy, who played 90 minutes on Wednesday at 35 in the Dominican. Annabelle came on and made an immediate impact on the ball as the game started to open up. Now, Randall Leal, another very talented and capable forward attacking player that's going to make a difference. We have an incredibly challenging period of time, the same as any team that are in Champions Cup right now. So we have to do our very best, certainly I do, of putting out a team that can be competitive, that's going to put points on the board, that is going to show the sort of spirit and fortitude when under pressure against, let's face it, an improved New York side. Forsberg is a wonderfully talented guy, as Hani does for us. He dragged the team along and constantly looking for him in their group. He's the catalyst for a lot of things that go on. Very, very talented guy. So, when you look at how they've improved, when you look at their style of play, if I was their coach in their locker room before the game, I'd have 100% been saying, listen, they've had a tough journey. They're without some key players. And the very best opening we could look at is to be ultra aggressive and jump on top of them, which is exactly what they did. And they were for sure the better team, as I said, in the first half. But I think it takes some character to come back in, to dust yourself down and to grit your teeth and roll your sleeves up at certain points in the game and wait for the opportunity which came for us in a minimal fashion, but still some moments that might have been a difference. But today was a tough point that I've said to the guys, I don't know that there will be a harder fought point for us all year, but definitely a much nicer way to get off to the season than a defeat, that is for sure.
Yeah, Gary, obviously Hani and Sam weren't playing it, but it did feel like you were able to get a decent amount of production from Tyler Boyd, maybe in ways that we haven't seen in years past. Obviously, he was really good on Wednesday, but what have you made kind of to his first few competitive matches, and what can you expect from him once the full attack is healthy and kind of firing?
I loved what I saw on Wednesday, Ben. Really, Tyler's inclusion in the group has been an immediate impact on and off the field. Great guy. Very, very talented, very intelligent, very versatile. I think you've seen all of those things today. Tough for him in certain periods of the game. I thought after what was a 70-minute stint on Wednesday, to play 90 today, it also shows you the gumption that the individual has as well. It wasn't easy for him or the team. But I do think that when you've got very much like-minded players like Hanny and Tyler and Sam, and that's not to say that some of the other guys don't have their own talents and qualities, but I think there's been an immediate connection and synergy that you see those three guys almost emanate towards one another, and it wasn't a shock on Wednesday night that all three of them had a big impact on the game.
An easy perception of the game would say that Nashville got better as New York got tired. But then again, your changes, the new personnel you put in there, and tactically, you did some moments that actually, caused them to not to be as dominant anymore. Could that be done by any way earlier in your opinion?
Yeah. Look, I think also, Claudio, they've made changes too. It's all part of the game. It was very noticeable to me that in the first 20 minutes, if we hadn't have gone to a central defensive back three, which included Shaq from about 20 minutes, 25 minutes on, that the combination of the front two and Forsberg, their energy and their counter press in the end was probably going to pay dividends. So it was more about, giving ourselves a little bit of a foothold in the game and moving on from there. At half time, I was able to give one or two of the guys a little bit more information. It's not a system that we've worked at during pre-season, but it has served us well in the past, and there's a lot of guys that are appreciative of what that brings. I thought the second period, with that added knowledge for certain players and roles and a little bit more definition of what was needed, gave us that impetus. But the game changed when the three guys came on. Walker coming into the game, you could visibly see the two centre-backs grow in stature. He's that influential. There is no getting away from it. Some players make others better, as well as being very, very good themselves. Others are just good players. And Walker is the first. He makes other players around him better. He gives them confidence in the way that he plays and the way he projects himself. Likewise, Annabelle came into the game, as you said, has started to stretch out a little bit more as both teams in their first league game of the season. There was going to be a little bit more space as the game moved on. Annabelle can make use of that. He's very intelligent, his techniques are tight, he's clean, his range of passing. It made a difference. It helped others around him. So, long-winded answer, Claudio, but, I don't think we could have moved any quicker given Walker's position with his injury or coming back from, and the way that the game was going. I think it would have been too early to make the changes that I did.
Okay. Gary, tonight. Thank you, sir. Tonight Taylor Washington did pretty well from my perspective, and started with CONCACAF as well. Could have your assessment, please, on Taylor's performance?
Absolutely. I would say that the two performances have been up there with his very best football that we've seen from him. Very reliable. His turn of pace, his tenacity has again been on show tonight. As the game wore on, and one or two of those guys came into it that gave us a bit more of a confidence boost, Taylor started to come into the game as well. Started to get a little bit higher up the field, showed what he's capable of, certainly from those wide areas. I've been absolutely delighted with him. 2 90-minute games. I think we should expect that there are guys around the group that can play 90 minutes back to back. But when you throw in the sort of travel and the field, the turf field that we played on the other night was never good for bodies, and the way that the body reacts to that. So all of the back four have got through a second 90 minutes for that, I'm delighted, of course. And whilst we weren't able to show what we're about going forward and didn't get close to maybe the creation that we saw on Wednesday, as I've explained, and obvious reasons, another clean sheet, which is great for the group.
Hey, Gary, you already talked about Tyler Boyd, but there were two other players who had their home debut, Drew Yearwood and Mackenzie Gaines. What did you make of their performance, and where do you see them going for the rest of the season?
I don't see them going anywhere. I hope they stay here. Was that a sort of hidden question there, Valer? I thought Drew's performance on Wednesday was a great debut for the club. His home debut today against his old side, I thought was a tad more challenging for him as it was for everyone else. But, there are signs in his game that he's been a very good addition. He's a good footballer. There's a slightly different dynamic to his game than some of our other central midfield players. He does have the ability to get forward when we are in the ascendancy. So I've been very, very pleased with what I've seen from Drew. And Mackenzie came on and gave us, a really important 15, 20 minutes tonight. And I'm sure we'll see more of him. He's one of the most athletic individuals that I think I've ever seen. I'd stick my neck out and say he might even be quicker than Jacob. He is incredibly rapid, and he will cause problems for defenders. Still areas of his game that he needs to develop and grow into. But again, he's been a very good addition and a very helpful one today.
Thank you. Gary.
Gary, obviously not a ton of action for Joe the other day, but he comes out very busy and was able to help you guys and give you someone to lean on when the offense was a little lacking. What did you see from him and the way he was able to step up after he wasn't exactly busy in the first game?
I would have to say probably man of the match for me today. When called upon, he came up trumps again. 2 or 3 excellent saves, great presence in the goal. He's been one of the most reliable signings, I think, that we've made from day one. An incredible individual, character and professional. And as I say, I think today's performance, typifies what he's capable of. And, probably just how keen he was today to not just earn a point, but to keep his goal intact.
Gary, Walker Zimmerman had an interview with CBS Sports come out a couple days ago where, he said how, he was being in pretty severe pain from June on last year. I guess, where do you gauge that level of his overall fitness now? And I guess with how he's been recovering this preseason from this various injuries, I guess, how important is it to have, 2 center backs you can really count on in Jack and Lucas?
Well, those 2 guys, over a period of time, have been... real strong foundations for us. I'll be honest, they had some troubles in the first half against this front 2. But the one thing they did was stick with it, stood strong, and with a little bit of manipulation in that back line, I think all of those guys came out with some credit in the end. As far as Walker's concerned, this road to today has been a long one for Walker. As you said, he went through an awful lot of discomfort and pain last year. Was on strong medication to get himself through certain games. I think he paid the price for that in the off season, and it's taken a bit longer than he would have liked, and we would have liked. But delighted to see him back out there again today. I said to him when I walked in, there have been occasions in training where I've looked and thought, maybe, there's still a little bit of time needed here before he gets back to where we've seen him before. But I think he's been kidding me on a little bit, trying to get out some of the work. He strode out onto the field, as we've seen him, imperious individual that he is, and really propped up that back line like Hercules in the final 30 minutes.
Tim Sullivan with the final question.
Hey, Gary. Obviously, the absences of Hani and Sam and out of the starting lineup, Anibal and Walker, maybe impacted how well you guys were able to play, particularly in attack. How did specifically Hani and Sam change the way that you planned to attack? Obviously, this is not the way you envisioned your home season opener going. How much did those absences affect that?
Yeah, look, what I would say to him is I opened it up by saying we're in that period of time where I think we have 8 games in just over 3 weeks if we get through this midweek game against Mocha. And it was always going to be hugely challenging. My hope was we weren't going to pick up any problems, but that is football, and we have. When you're picking up problems, you want to try and avoid the areas that are most impactful for you as a group, and we haven't been able to do that either, certainly in the front line. So I think we're all going to have to take a deep breath and just wait a while longer for these guys to get back into their stride. My hope is that Hani will be available for us on Wednesday. Some news on Sam was much, much better than we expected about his shoulder. And I would hope his return is going to be far, far sooner than we thought leaving the Dominican. But ultimately, I think we all got a little bit of a taste in the Dominican of what the likes of Tyler, Hani and Sam are able of producing in in a game and in that final third when they're together. Randall back into the mix. 1 or 2 other guys like Walker and of course Annabelle in the starting lineup, and you start to see what might look like the strongest lineup. And I'm really, really hopeful, of course, that we can get through Wednesday night, and all of those guys are going to be in the best possible spot for maybe even that following Wednesday, Thursday, which we all hope will be a game against Miami.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you taking it.
Yeah, it was an interesting game going into it. We knew that Red Bulls were going to press us high. They play with a lot of energy, so we were going to have to try and take the sting out of the game early on. I think we struggled a bit to do that. They were pretty much all over us in the first half. We couldn't really find a rhythm. I think we weathered the storm pretty well, and going into the second half, I think we were able to get a little bit more on the front foot. We were able to keep the ball a little bit better and ultimately create some chances. But, I think 0-0 is probably a fair result today.
Thank you, Joe. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of talked about how difficult it was in the first half. It felt like just with their press, even to get out of your own half. How did you feel like the changes that you guys made, substitutions and tactically in the second half, kind of helped build that?
Yeah, I think it helped. We moved to more of a back 5, and I think it gave us a little more time on the ball in the back to try and pick out passes. And I think going with the 2 guys up top helped out a bit. Teal was on a bit of an island in the first half, and despite his best efforts, holding the ball up, didn't have a lot going on around him. So I think, throwing another guy up there with Jacob helped him a lot. And, trying to shore up the central part of the field with 3 midfielders, I think helped us kind of lock it down a little bit more. They were having a lot of joy in the first half, coming right through the middle of us. So, I think the tactical changes definitely, helped us in the second half. And,
Today you played behind 2 center backs and then later 3 center backs. From a goalkeeper's perspective, what's the difference, and do you have a preference?
No, I don't really have a preference, to be honest. I think the difference, like I said, is on the ball we have a little more time to try and pick out passes. Defensively, it means that our wide backs and they're always wide backs, but our wide backs need to shift a little bit more, and they're able to get a little bit higher. They have a little more freedom to press players a little higher up the field. So knowing that they have some more cover, I think it takes a lot of communication, a lot of shifting side to side. But ultimately, I think it was the right move, and I think it helped us shore up our defense in the second half.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Joe, we've heard a lot of players this offseason, this preseason, talk about, how there's room to take the next step for this team, especially on offense, just general attack improvements. I guess, what kind of signs do you get from a game like today in which you're still able to, even with the improvements you want to make, you're still able to grit out a result, score a straw on a day when so many starters injured or out?
Yeah, I think, that's kind of been who we are as a club since our inception, really, of MLS, is that if the attacking side, isn't firing for whatever reason, then we're going to work hard, we're going to grind, and we're going to try our best to keep a clean sheet. And whether it's injuries or guys out of form or whatever, and if we're not scoring goals, then, at least we have a good foundation of solid defensive play, and trying to keep a clean sheet always keeps us in a game. Like we saw tonight, we had a chance or two in the 90th minute, and I think that's, when you keep a clean sheet for 90 minutes, it keeps the attacking players in the game. I think at a certain point, if we go down 2 goals, maybe some of the players aren't making runs that they would normally make, but keeping the game tied, going into those last minutes, we have a chance to win, and I think that lights a little fire under some of the guys.
Any final questions?
Joe, how do you think the team feel today? After all the traveling, going to the Dominican Republic, coming back here and face a tough team like New York, how the feeling and the team physically after the game?
Yeah, I think obviously you saw that we had a couple injuries in the Dominican game, and coming into this, it was a lot of travel, but that's our job and that's what we do. So it's on us to recover as best as we can and be prepared. It's a lot of games in a short amount of time, but that's what we get paid to do. So there's no changing it. So there's no point in making excuses about it. So we need to just try and recover as best as we can and prepare ourselves for Wednesday.
Thank you.
It was awesome. It's a great feeling. Obviously, it's been a long time. Got to miss a lot of the preseason, which, is a blessing and a curse that I had the time to kind of heal up and get to a spot where I feel like I could be more pain-free. So that was a really big positive for me, was the timeline, and to get back and feel like, able to make an impact on the game was special, and feels good to be back, be out there with the guys.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, Walker, first of all, how are you feeling physically, and how was it coming back? Not just coming back, but coming back in a game where you guys are fighting for a clean sheet and helping get that at home.
I think that was the best part about it, was just getting right, thrown into the fire of a situation where I feel like I can thrive and really help the team try and solidify that shutout that they had worked so hard to maintain through 60 minutes. So I was obviously excited to be able to be a part of that. Feel really good physically now after the game. See how I'll respond, and should get some more minutes as I keep building in here on Wednesday and moving forward.
Walker, Gary described you as not only a good player, but a good player who makes people around him better. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, that's a really big compliment, because that's something that I think we've challenged each other to do more of this year, is how can you make the person next to you look like the best player on the field? And so trying to do that each and every game is going to make us a better team. And that's what I try and do when I'm out there, lead by obviously example, but also through experience and leadership and motivation. Give them positivity, give them feedback, and try and really just keep everyone locked in for every play. Because that's, if you slip up mentally on one play, all of a sudden that can change a whole season. So really just being focused, that's something that we can control, and I think that's the job of all the leaders on the team.
No? Claudio?
Walker, you've been here since day one. Of course, you've been with the up and downs of the team. I don't remember this as an occasion where we have so many key figures injured before. How confident are you that the team is able to, even without it, make it through?
I think we'll be good. We had a really good preseason from a team culture standpoint. We put a really big emphasis on coming together, getting to know the guys on the team a little bit better. And I think already you can see how we're handling adversity is in a much stronger place than maybe it would have been in the previous years. So, yeah, you're right. We're missing a lot of big pieces, guys that we expect a lot from throughout the season. But, getting this opportunity so early in the season to overcome that is really important. Because then you know that you can trust on these guys who have been showing up since day one, making an impact, rather than having to figure that out in the summer or later down the road. So that's a really big positive, is that guys stepped up. We were able to have a big rotation from the game from away in Dominican, and now we'll probably be able to have a big rotation again on Wednesday. And it's just going to be really good for the group. Everyone's staying engaged, and I think that's going to be a good thing in the long run.
Okay, go ahead.
Walker, I asked Gary about Taylor Washington. You mentioned guys from day one here at the club. Did you kind of assess his performance tonight on the left side of the pitch?
Yeah, it was really good, really positive from Taylor. I think we saw one of his best games in a Nashville jersey away in the Dominican. Someone who typically gets spotty minutes. It's not easy to come in and kind of get a consistent role for a few games. And so he's had, thankfully this whole preseason to get into a rhythm. And I think you've seen a lot better version of Taylor this year in that role. And he's really stepped up to the plate. So exciting for him. Obviously one of those guys who's been there from the beginning, always going to work hard, always going to give it his all. And I think now you're just seeing someone who's a little bit more comfortable because of the continuous run of games. So it's a positive for us.
All right, final question. Gentry, go ahead.
Yeah, Walker, you mentioned the team culture aspect, getting to know the guy next to you. Where does that come from? Whose idea was that?
Yeah, we've done a lot as kind of leadership council, some of the older guys, the work of some outside help as well. Brad Stenson has been on staff, really kind of helping organize our leadership. What does it really look like? What does it mean to be a Nashville SC player? And we've dug deep. We've had a lot of meetings. Shout out to all the other guys who've been on those meetings with me. It's not easy work. It's been pretty time consuming, but we're working on creating principles and values that we can all stand on. And that way, at the end of the day, we know, hey, these are our core values. This is who we are. If anyone ever comes to Nashville SC, this is what we expect of you. So putting those things in place just provides a little bit more clarity, accountability, and is something that I think is really important in the long run. So a lot of work's gone on behind the scenes, I'll say that. A lot of time spent on that aspect. And so hopefully it's something that we'll see benefits from this season.